And we're back with some more Avorion. And today we're going to be making our way to the core, and then seeing what's in there, and then hopefully upgrading ourselves to take on its central guardian. After doing a bunch of missions, you will locate these 8 asteroids, and you'll notice that a bunch of them have little red dots at the tips of them. That's because we have positioned a ship beside them containing a special artifact, and that artifact activates each one. You need a specific artifact for each one of them. Each one's labelled 1 to 8. You'll notice 7 of the 8 have been lit up already. Let's check on the last one and see what happens. And we simply install the final artifact. And bada bing bada. Okay then. I love that someone designed this entire system but didn't actually have the keys. They're like, hey, if we ever find these keys that we've never had before, we can totally open this up. It's, video game logic. But, yep, you'll notice the things coming out of there. Thankfully, they don't attack us. They seem to be neutral so long as you don't fire at them or fire your guns at all anywhere in their proximity. So long as you don't shoot, they don't shoot. We're going to adopt that policy around them because the things coming out of there are far tougher than we are. They have access to materials that we don't. A quick jaunt through to the other side. And we now have access to the core. Excellent. Now, let's go find ourselves some location to set up shop. We would prefer to find a capital world. To find a capital world, we just hailed a passing cargo ship, and they told us where their home planet was. And now we're going to send our entire scavenging army there. The friendly, of course. And we can set up some scrap missions to hopefully get ourselves some resources. It'd be nice to get ourselves some of that shiny new material that's floating around here. While we're waiting for them to bring in the dough, we're going to grab ourselves a space station. Yes, that thing strapped to the front of the ship is a space station. I know it doesn't look like one, but technically it is. Now, we're going to use that space station and drag it all the way to the core, hopefully avoiding all the enemies along the way. The plan here is to turn it into a turret factory and then hopefully get really good turrets. You see, the way turrets spawn in this, when you're building a factory, is the quality of the turrets is determined by how close to the galactic core you are. Closer to the core, better quality of the turrets. Further away, worse they are. So we're going to build a factory there, generate the turrets we need, and then drag the factory back with us to somewhere safer where we can possibly defend it. You see that exclamation mark there? Yeah, we don't want to go there. That is the Galactic Guardian. He would be angry at us. We want to go as close to him as we possibly can to get the best turret factory we can. Quick deployment of a turret factory. And we now have access to, hopefully, some decent turrets. There's a lot of RNG when it comes to this stuff, so we might get duds, we might get good ones. However, there's ways around bad turrets if you really want to. While waiting for those turrets to spin up, we've got a bit of a problem. We want to get our hands on the next level of tech knowledge so that we can actually build with some of the higher-end materials. However, we need to get sort of raw materials of it. And I don't want to mine that. All the scrap we're getting, we're turning straight into the resource, and we can't use scrap either. I think we're going to have to find another way around buying this resource or buying this technology. One other option is to go to a shipyard and buy the building knowledge there. Unfortunately, we need to be a little bit higher relations with this side. I think that can be arranged. We'll just have to do, well, some purchasing and then an awful lot more purchasing, depending, there's limits to how much liking someone can get you from purchasing, so we might have to injure a few pirates and baddies as well, just to make them like us enough to ally with us. Our scrap mining is yielding amazing dividends and pulling in enormous quantities of subsystems and turrets. They are going to be very important later on. But for now, just know that the resources are pouring in. One quick way to crank up our liking with the faction is to buy some ships off them. They seem to really like that. Depending on the factions, though, some things they prefer more than others. But this is going to slowly help drive up our relations just a little bit more, just so that we can buy the technology we want. An 8-hour salvaging mission with all 15 of our scavenging ships is, it looks like it's going to bring in some resources for us. That's, about 10 million of the second highest level resource, though we're still a little bit short in the Avorion. We need to get our hands on better mining drills. Buying a bunch of random turrets and resources from them also seems to drive up their liking. That's useful. I think we're almost at the point where they'll sell us technology. After working our relationship up with this faction sufficiently, they'll now sell us the tech. Thank you kindly. Now all we need to do is save and load the game and they should refresh their menu, and they'll sell us the next level tech up. We just apply that there and boom. We now have access to building with that material. It's the second highest level material in the game. Very good for making armor and low-tech stuff. Not so great at the high-tech stuff. That's what the next level up material is, Avorion. Well, yeah, it is the name of the game. And this is roughly the relationships we had to get up to with them just to make it work. And going to actually a different shipyard instead of reloading, we managed to find this one. Boom. got our hands on the final material. Thing is, we had to move a little bit closer to the core. They weren't selling the Avorion one quite on the center, so once we moved to the edge of their territory, they were more than willing to sell us the final level of tech. Good times. Once we apply that technology, we've got all that we've maxed out the tech tree, basically. Now it's just a case of finding the best guns, the best ships, and and maybe upgrading our scrapping fleet a bit. They need better miners so that they can mine better materials. After going AFK for a while, I had to go meet a friend. Came back and our scrapping missions, or our salvaging missions, were mostly complete, but it resulted in us collecting a lot of systems. It's not so much the resources, well, okay, the resources are a nice bonus, or, well, actually very important as well, but the fact that we get all of these subsystems and turrets to go with it is going to be very important for our long-term plans here, especially if we want to make some really killer ships. As you can see, we're at 1,595 of 1,000 inventory space when it comes to systems and turrets, which, yep, shouldn't be possible, but the game seems to not mind as long as it's all coming from salvaging. We just can't pick up anything until we go under the numbers again. As well as that, we left our ships patrolling the home planet sector, and all of their shooting down of pirates and invaders has driven up the liking with this faction so high that now they're willing to ally with us. Which is nice. Getting an alliance with a faction, well, just means they are summonable later. We might use that, but not just yet. We're willing to pay the small amount of chump change it takes to make them allied with us. It's time to take all those turrets that we've collected and don't have a use for, as in the low-end and junk ones, and maybe do a little bit of light scrapping. We've increased our cargo capacity so that we can handle all the scrapping we're doing. We just select everything below a certain level, we turn them into trash, and then we scrap the lot. That's going to fill our cargo bay with an awful lot of materials that we can use to make our own turrets. It just means we can take scrap ones, break them down, and turn them into much better, far superior turrets. It'll cost us some cash, but not having to buy all the components to make them saves us a bunch of cash at the same time. For example, this is a rapid quadra burster that if we crank up all of the stats on, will give us a DPS equivalent to about 1,700. That is superior to every single weapon we have on us at the moment. In fact, it's at least double pretty much anything we've got on us. However, it will cost us almost 9 million. However, notice we've got all the servers, the high-pressure tubes, all that ammunition, all that stuff we have from the scrapping, so we don't need to buy any of that. Saves a bunch of effort. But weapons will come later. There's other things we've got to take care of first. The excessive amount of low-end subsystems get chucked into a research lab to hopefully turn us out better ones. The first turrets we're going to build, salvaging lasers. We're going to need them for our salvaging fleet. This will increase the amount of resources we get in, and then it's just a general all-around good plan. Now that we've got the tech, we've got the parts, we can now make the turrets and refit all of our fleet. Our old salvaging fleet is not quite up to the tasks anymore. It's just it hasn't got good enough salvaging lasers. So instead what we're going to do is go in and replace them with the new and improved lasers we've just started crafting. We do have to upgrade what they're sitting upon because otherwise you can't place it down. Avorion turrets have to be placed on Avorion material, but that's a thin layer, costs us very little. All we're really worried about is getting those turrets on there. Now, when we go to actually do some salvaging, you'll notice we've got much improved numbers, especially at the higher end. It doesn't really affect the subsystems for some reason, but that's okay. I would just like to have some Avorion to upgrade our main ship later on. Our new and improved group of salvagers is looking quite nice. That is an awful lot more Avorion than we were looking at before. We want that Avorion to upgrade our main ship so that our main ship can do a bit of a kick-ass ship. The rest of our fleet we're probably going to upgrade with Ogganite, whatever the second highest material. We don't really care too much about getting everything up to Avorion because it would take too long and it would be way too expensive. After our computer spent a hard night grinding away, we've got a whole bunch more turrets to scrap. And a whole bunch more subsystems to combine. Up until now, we have been avoiding getting into fights because, well, we suck at them. The problem is, we haven't actually upgraded our armor and shields for this area, and they just kick our butts the moment we show up. Also, our damage is incredibly weak. So, let me show you what happens when we attack a target, or a close-by target. Yep, you over there. You look like a perfectly valid target for us. Eat cannon fire, eat everything, and we barely scratched you. That's sort of our problem at the moment. We're just not strong enough. Before we start building our fancy new turret, I thought I'd go over, for context, just how terrible our current turrets are in comparison. This here is our highest DPS turret. Now there's a DPS and then DPS per slot. The DPS per slot is more important because the amount of slots you have on a ship is limited. So, while technically this thing gives us 1,459 DPS, it actually takes up 2 slots. For example, this one here gives us 1,479 DPS, but it takes up 4 slots. So this thing only gives half the DPS of this one, despite both of them adding the same thing over here to firepower. Your firepower is just a grand total of all your DPS. But because it doesn't include the amount of slots you have, and slots are the big limiter, you kind of want to turn on the option to see DPS per slot. But anyway, DPS per slot is what we're going to work with, and 729 is the best turret we've got. Though you have to get within 3 kilometers to hit someone. Our second best turret has 517 DPS per slot, and that one has a range, though, of 13.3 kilometers, making it probably our best all-around turret. All the rest come in at about 300 DPS to, well, 2 to 300 DPS apiece. It's just not great. Well, okay, for where we were, these were actually quite good. But now that we're in the core, we need something a little bit more oomph. And I think I found just the turret. This here is our 4th turret factory. 3 of them we've been dragging into the core, and then respinning here, you can reinitialize the turrets. We don't want to do that here. This would actually mess with the turret. It's a maximum teched out one, and luckily we rolled a good turret. A long-range coaxial rocket flanks. Basically, it's a locked-in-direction rocket launcher. And the thing about rocket launchers is, normally they're terrible. They can fire them in one direction, they fire in a straight line, they're pretty slow, people can just dodge them. However, you've got this upgrade thing you can do here when you're building them yourself, and you give it targeting cards. And just when you give it that last one, a little piece of extra text appears down here. Seeker shots. That means they'll hunt things down and hit them. Oh, and did I mention the DPS per slot on this is 1600. Current thing we're equipped with has 700 and a range of 2 kilometers. And, you know what, let's just cap it out and give it all the bells and whistles. Yep, there we go. So, 2300 DPS with a range of 57 kilometers. Oh, well, anyway, it does cost 57 million to build them. That's a lot. If we want to equip a lot of these, we're going to need more money. But now we can come back for it. We're going to build 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can we build a 5th? You know what? 5 it is. Now let's go upgrade our ship. We'll rip off the old cannons, and I'm saying we stick on a bunch of rockets. Well, that looks a little bit better. Let's go take these puppies for a spin. Going back to have a chat with these pirates that caused us such issues in the past. Let's see who we got here. Oh! There's a bunch of rockets headed your way, buddy. You might want to... What happens if I just hold down the fire button? That is just a glorious stream of rockets. Oh my god. Well... that guy is not liking his day. How do you like rockets? Oh, yeah, you find them incredibly tasty. Well, I would like to say those missiles were an incredible success. We just need to build more of them. That's going to require a lot of money. Since cash is all we really need, what we're going to do is just build some stations. If you found a station, what we can do is go into basic factories. These ones don't actually require any inputs. So, for example, if you build a solar power plant, stations like this require no inputs, they only have outputs, and let's just crank that up all the way to, this increases the amount of production cycles. It's these little bars that show up down the bottom. Each one starts with 2 bars, and by upgrading it you can increase it up to 3, increasing your capacity by 2.5. However, this only seems to count if you're in sector, though this might have been patched since, so I'm not 100% certain. But who cares? This is up and running. Now what we're going to do is do that for all the stations. And that is all the basic factories constructed. But if we want to do all the higher level ones, I'd prefer to have the base materials, so we're going to have to find some of those claimable asteroids and turn them into basic mines to get all the last of the basic resources. This might take a minute, so we're going to need to upgrade our combat ship. The delicate unicorn design has served us well, but I think we'll go with something a little bit more sleek for our next iteration. This here is the blinding unicorn. As you can see, the glorious unicorn horn on the front with 10 massively overpowered long-range missiles with a beautiful range of 57 kilometers. Then we have 12 laser point defense, all scattered around the outskirts on the top and bottom to protect. And it's called the Blinding Unicorn for no other reason than it should blind its enemies, if nothing else. I can't see anything when I'm driving this. Using our new ship, we go around and we claim as many asteroids as we can find. We're going to use these to found all the necessary mines. We've already got a coal mine and a noble metal mine. We just have to get one of all the rest. And it's much easier to do this when you have a big powerful ship to blast any of the pirates that might try and stop you. That's every single basic mine and factory. Well, okay, except for the ice mine, because we already had the factory version of that, so we didn't need the mine version. Then I let it run for about 8 hours overnight, and at the end of all of that, we've got lots of money, but not as much as I'd like. That's only like about 300 million for 8 hours. That's not enough. I say we build more factories. We use all of that money to just keep chucking down factories until we've no more money at all. So I may have installed a few more little factory things everywhere. I did the entire second of. I started doing a whole bunch of them until I eventually got into the economy of it and realized most of them are trash. That's just sort of the problem. The best things are the mines and the basic ones because there's no custom. Platinum mines, absolute number one. They're the best ones. Platinum mines, just don't even bother building anything else. Platinum mines everywhere and you're good to go. After popping in and out of the core with turret factories for a while and doing a lot of spinning, we wasted about 200 or 300 million. Well, it's okay, we're up to about 4.3 billion. We found this monstrosity of a turret. Dual coaxial nullifying ruiner or whatever. Basically, it's missiles that have antimatter on them, meaning they do bonus damage to hull, about 2.9 times the normal amount of damage. Plus, we haven't even maxed this sucker out yet. Once we crank on some servos, throw up some rocket damage, high pressure tubes for extra range, fuel for extra range, and targeting cards to make it a seeker, you've got something with 74 kilometers of range, a DPS per slot of 4,351, and if it hits the hull, it does 2.9 times that damage. This thing should be monstrous. It costs 291 million to build a single one of these. 291 million. You must be docked to the station. Oh, come on. I am practically tickling it in its nethers right there. Yeah, I had to uninstall a few things to get this close to it. I uninstalled all the things that make life easier, like transporters and stuff like that, because we want more cards. And, ooh, that was 291 million. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, let's make it 10. So, we just spent 2.9 billion with a B on missiles. Now let's go and fire them at the guy in the center of the map and see if they really hurt him a lot. We are right by the Guardian. Now, we do have this item we could use. It's called a wormhole power diverter. I'm pretty sure this helps us with killing the Guardian. I don't want to use it. I just want to go in and start blasting and see what happens. We've got some pretty high-end weaponry on this, and our secondary missiles, we brought those along as well. We basically crammed on as much of everything as we possibly can. And you are pretty big. Hostile. Yeah, let's just fire and see what it does to your shield. Yeah, we do a lot of damage. Wormhole Guardian. What the? What's he doing? I don't know what he's doing, but shouldn't our missiles be killing him right about now? Yep, they seem to hurt. I think we'll call in the reinforcements, though. You see, while we've been going around doing this, we built up a fleet of small salvage ships. Then I just sort of upgraded them and put a bunch of weapons on them because I thought, why not? So they're all... Whoa, what the... You know what? Never mind. You guys, I want you all to come here. You. Yep, number 2 as well. And there we can just go back to shooting stuff. Oh, man. Yeah, you're dead. You're dead. Who else is dead? Probably that guy over there. We'll put off a volley in his face. Yeah. Oh, there's our ships. Now, this kind of weirds me out, but the ships don't seem to automatically defend themselves. You have to sort of come down here and just have attack all enemies. But thankfully, you can just hit left control and W. Also, there's another thing for salvaging and mining. So if you want to do a lot of stuff like this, you can just sort of go... grab him, left control W, and just keep going all the way down the rails. And have them all just start doing their thing. And we are going to start getting closer so that we can start blowing stuff up. Yeah, there we go. You can die. Actually, let's just target the Wormhole Guardian with a good volley. Yeah, I don't think he's going to like that. That seems like that's going to do a lot of damage. Oh, look at that just swarm of missiles. What the hell is he firing? You know what? Never mind. Our people are actually pretty decent. The weapons I've equipped them with are kind of, well, good. Oh my god, they're shredding him. Oh, someone's had their Weetabix. That was just a slaughter. We didn't even... Well, is there anyone left alive? Nope. And let's just... Actually, Oh, I want to show you the swarm in action. Uh, let's just go with... Oh, actually, we should repair up a bit first. Let's just do this the fun way. We'll come in here, we'll grab a scavenger, and then we hold down Control, is it, and C. You, all of you, I want you all to get on your salvaging horses. Now, the thing is, all of them come equipped with salvage raids as well as salvage fighters. I really should have got into the fighters earlier. Like, just so much earlier, because, see all those red beams? That's the fighters salvaging. And, oh my god, they salvage so much. Once I got into it, it was just a case of suddenly things got incredibly out of control. Fighters, totally broken. And yes, we totally should have got into them earlier. What's this guy made out of? He is made out of Avorion, the highest level material in the game. Currently, we're at 47 million of the stuff, so we got plenty. We kind of had a bit of a problem because all those fighters are made of Avorion, so it's a bit expensive to make them all. Oh, and we got a bunch of nice weapons out of this. Thing is, the weapons you get off the things that enemies drop, they're pathetic. They're just not great. For example, you have a long-range double Gatling, which has 1200 DPS. Yeah, that's like our missiles do about 5000 DPS and have antimatter on them. So, no, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Even sorting it by DPS, there's a rapid triple pulse gun that has a DPS of 798. There's 1054. There's 5. Like we've already dropped below 500. It just doesn't work out. For example, these ships over here, the salvage ships, the ones that have our that we call in as backup. These guys are wielding some pretty nasty dual anti-quasar TBX exotic Avorion guns. 1280 DPS per slot. It's 95% of all the shots pierce shields, and it has antimatter damage, meaning it does 190% extra damage to hull. And when I say 190%, I don't mean an extra 90%, I mean 190%. So that will not do 1200 damage. It will do 2400 damage plus another 90%. It's over 3000 damage per second per slot, which is ridiculous, and it ignores shields. These things, they shred stuff, just ridiculously so. Anyway, yeah, that guy is still collecting scrap Avorion, and oh my god, the fighters are just beautiful. You should see them when we have the whole team here. They just sort of, a solid red beam of light just appears, and whole ships and space stations just vanish. I would love to redo this again, knowing what I know now, but go in with basically one combat ship and a few specialized salvagers and things like that. You could just salvage your way across the galaxy, murdering everything before you, consuming their corpses, and then using that to fuel the death of the next round. Oh, and the salvagers also pop out the occasional turret control system and, you know, subsystems and things like that, which is a bit of an odd system. See, the thing is, you get these subsystems like these here, like turret control subsystem. You can pick these up in the lowest end areas of the map. They will still drop these turret control subsystems, which makes no sense. You can get them in iron areas or anything like that. Whereas the weapons, like the high-end weaponry, that stuff doesn't really drop back there because weapons have a class, as in iron weapons are going to be trash compared to higher-end weapons. Oh, there is no difference. So if you have an iron weapon that does 100 damage per second, it'll still do 100 damage per second to Avorion armor, or actually Onganite, whatever. It does the same damage to all the armors. There's no decrease in effectiveness as you go up the tech tree. This was a little bit of a slaughter, I will admit, though I may have over-prepared the bejesus out of this ship. Namely because those guns are just so terrifying. These things here are just monstrous. 4,300 damage, and that antimatter stuff on top just means they wreck everything. We also have a bunch of just standard issue ones. These are the leftover ones from before. True, it cost us 3 billion to build them all, but it does mean you just sort of click on something, fire off a quick volley, it dies, and then you just move on. Some of the downsides of this game are it's a bit grindy at times. Like, especially if you're using some of the salvage commands, they can run for 8 hours. So you can just sort of leave your computer run overnight. So I've got I let this run overnight maybe 4 or 5 times. Just because it collected a whole bunch of resources and I didn't have to do anything. You're sort of thinking, I could turn off my computer, I could just leave this run overnight. You don't really need to. Oh, and upgrading your ships, once you have about 15 salvagers, they pretty much have 0 chance of ever being ambushed. And the amount of subsystems they generate you is just ridiculous. When it comes to making turrets, making your own turrets is the way to go. Basically because you can drag a turret shop all the way to here, basically anywhere touching this 0-0 tile, and then you just regenerate it. It costs you 1 million in regeneration until you get a really high damage, stupendously overpowered weapon. and then you just build a bunch of those to kill everything. Missiles are incredibly powerful. Also, those shield-piercing weapons are pretty much the best all-rounder. You can run into targets that are immune to, well, not immune, very resistant to damage types. I've had that before where I ran into ones that were resistant to my physical damage missiles, and it took me loads of volleys to kill them, or I had to call in some reinforcements just to speed it along. But this is kind of nice because there's actually two different damage missiles there, the antimatter and the physical one, so I shouldn't have that problem anymore. But those guys with the plasma that pierces shields, I've been informed that that has no weaknesses. It will pierce the shields of any ship. Theoretically, there's ships that have resistances to it, but it doesn't seem to work. So this thing has a 95% chance of all the shots piercing on those beam weapons, and they just shred stuff. So bringing along squads of those seems to do enormous amounts of damage. We'll have to come back and play this again, but this next time I would have a plan, and it would be more grinding your way up by killing stuff. I think that would be a far more entertaining way. There's an awful lot to this game, and I feel like the tutorials, or there should be more information on how to do it, because it's just so haphazard. And the grindiness of it is a killer. For example, let's just grab this ship over here. Oh. Sorry about that. If we want to upgrade this ship, and we want to upgrade it to a newer model, we would have a save design in here, and we go, okay, we want to upgrade you to a newer model, and we would hit the apply button. The problem is the moment it changes size or shape, all the guns just fly off. You can't save guns in between designs. When you scale things up, sometimes you're going to have these things, see this Avorion turret base? This turret base is just there so that the turrets can be placed on this thing, which is ridiculous. I feel like if you've got an Avorion turret, and you've got access to the Avorion turret-based tech, that should be it. Like, it should just cost you one Avorion or something to place it. Because otherwise you're placing down these strips, and if you get hit by a shield-piercing weapon or something that destroys this strip, which is a tiny little thin strip, well, then it's going to cause you problems. You can't even make armoured strips of Avorion. So it's like, I've had missiles sneak through and just completely disarm a ship. It's ridiculous. Also, you got to put down at least 4 of these turrets. I would have put down 8 point defense turrets. It was too time consuming. You spend so much time just building one ship. Then you got to put on all this stuff. Then you got to put on the crew. Each one of these have crews. So the moment you finished your upgrade, well, now you suddenly don't have enough engineers. You don't have enough mechanics. You don't have enough gunners. You have to go to places to try and find replacements. That should be simple clicks. It's a grind after a while. It's not difficult to find these things. It's just a pain in the butt to have to travel between multiple stations or call in a transport, which you then have to wait to show up. And then you're waiting several minutes, and then you have to get up to it. And it's just painful. So there's a whole bunch of painful grind that's in there that I don't really like. I would much prefer to be able to save a blueprint of a ship that included all the weapons and then just apply that, assuming I had the weapons in my inventory. Stuff like that would be so much handier. Because as it is, the thoughts of going through and having to upgrade 15 ships is the kind of thing that makes me go, no, I think I'll do that later. Or maybe I'll do 4 or 5 now, do something fun, and then come back and do 4 or 5 later. There is a few, so wonderful game. Just has a few kinks that need to be worked out before I would strongly recommend it. Right now, there's plenty of potential. Just way too much grindy stuff that needs to be cut down on to make it more enjoyable and less grindy. I believe the sound effect we're looking for this last bit is... delicious. Well, that was the Central Guardian of the Universe. I believe there is some other boss out there somewhere. If anyone's interested, we can go have a shot at killing them next. I think our team would be more than happy to eat them alive. Figuratively and actually... figuratively, literally, we'll eat their corpse. We're not going to you can't actually use those beams on living things, unfortunately. Well, anything shielded. Once their shields go down, then you can eat them alive. There's a few, actually, that are very good for that. Never mind. This was Avorion. I am currently on holidays. This I should have made before I left. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck.